London, 1907. The streets of Camden Town were alive with the pulse of Edwardian life. Market stalls bustled, public houses overflowed with laughter and song, and the railway arches echoed with the rhythm of a city in the throes of change. It was an era of elegance and crime, wealth and poverty, high art and shadowy vice. A city where progress marched forward, but darkness still clung to its alleyways. And in September of that year, a murder shocked not just Camden, but the entire nation, a murder that would become one of London's most infamous crimes, and one that blurred the line between true crime and art itself. This is the story of the Camden Town Murder, a tale of a young woman with secrets, of men who lived double lives, and of an artist who transformed the crime into something far stranger, a scandal that rippled across Edwardian society. The victim was Emily Dimmock. She was only 22 years old, a working-class woman who had grown up in the small town of Bedfordshire before drifting into London life. Emily was beautiful, described by those who knew her as delicate and fair, with a quiet charm that drew people in. She was also, by Edwardian standards, a woman of two worlds. By day, she was a live-in partner of a man named Bertram Shaw, a respectable railway cook. But at night, Emily sometimes lived another life, slipping out under the cover of darkness to work as a prostitute. In Camden and King's Cross, it was a life of survival, not glamour. For young working-class women at the turn of the century, options were limited: domestic service, factory work, or, for those who fell through the cracks, the dangerous streets of the city. Emily's double life was something of an open secret. Shaw, the man she lived with, knew of her past. He tried to keep her at home, but temptation and need often drew her out into the nightlife of Camden. It was a secret that would eventually cost her life. On the morning of September 12, 1907, the landlady of the modest home at 29th Paul's Road, Camden, noticed something strange. Emily's door was closed. Too quiet. Shaw, who had been working the night shift on the railway, returned home and tried to rouse her, but when the door opened, a scene of horror awaited. Emily Dimmock was lying in bed, her throat savagely cut from ear to ear. The blood had pooled across the sheets, soaking the mattress. Her body was arranged as if she had been attacked in her sleep, still partially clothed, with no signs of a struggle in the room. Whoever had killed her had done so quickly, efficiently, and in chilling silence. The police descended on Camden. The case immediately gripped London. The newspapers seized upon the story. A young working-class woman living a secret life, murdered in her bed. It was scandalous. It was lurid, and it was, for many, symbolic of the hidden dangers of Edwardian London, where respectability and vice lived side by side. The investigation revealed that Emily had been seen the night before in the company of a man. Witnesses at public houses in Camden remembered her drinking with someone, a stranger, but described as well-dressed, with sharp features and a distinct moustache. The man had given his name as Mr. George. It wasn't much to go on, but it was the first step. Soon, suspicion fell on a man named Robert Wood. Wood was not an anonymous face in the crowd. He was a 30-year-old sign painter, married, and known in Camden's pub scene. He was also an amateur artist and closely connected to the bohemian world of London's working-class creative circles. Most damningly, evidence emerged that Wood had been seen with Emily in the weeks leading up to her death. A postcard, later identified as being written by him, had invited her to meet at a public house shortly before the murder. When police arrested Robert Wood, the press went wild. He was not just any suspect, but a man from the fringes of the art world, a respectable tradesman by day, but one who lived in the underbelly of Camden by night. The trial that followed became a national sensation. At the Old Bailey in December 1907, Robert Wood stood accused of Emily Dimmock's murder. The case was circumstantial, but the prosecution argued that Wood had seduced Emily, lured her back to her home, and killed her in cold blood to silence her. The defense, led by the legendary barrister Edward Marshall Hall, presented a different picture. They argued that the police had latched onto the wrong man. Blinded by circumstantial connections, Marshall Hall was a master of courtroom performance, and his speeches turned the case into high drama. The most crucial testimony came from a barmaid named Ruby Young, who claimed to have seen Wood with Emily on the night of the murder. But under fierce cross-examination, her certainty wavered. Was she sure? Could she really swear it was him? Doubt began to creep into the jury's minds. In the end, Robert Wood was acquitted. The jury took less than an hour to decide. Wood walked free, but the mystery remained. If not Wood, then who had killed Emily Dimmock. The case was never solved, but Emily's story didn't end with the trial. It lived on in a way few crimes do not in police files, but in paint and canvas. The artist Walter Sickert, a controversial figure in the London art world, was fascinated by the case. Sickert was notorious for his obsession with the hidden lives of the city rooms for rent, shadowed figures, women on beds. He painted a series of works inspired by the murder, calling them the Camden Town Murder. These paintings did not depict the crime directly. Instead, they showed ambiguous, unsettling scenes. A naked woman sprawled on a bed, a clothed man looming nearby, the air heavy with menace. Sickert claimed his works were about the psychology of relationships, not the crime itself, but to the public. The link was unavoidable. The Camden Town Murder paintings became infamous, fueling gossip that Sickert himself had some dark connection to the crime. Decades later, some would even speculate wrongly, or rightly, that Sickert might have been Jack the Ripper. The Camden Town Murder became more than just a crime, it became a symbol. For some, it was about the dangers faced by women like Emily, caught between respectability and survival. For others, it was about the voyeurism of art and the press, feeding of tragedy. And for many, it was about the enduring mystery of a young life cut short, with no justice served. Over a century later, the murder of Emily Dimmock remains unsolved. No killer was ever found, no motive ever proven. Her name is remembered less for who she was than for the scandal her death created. But if one looks past the headlines, past the paintings and the rumors, one can still see Emily, a young woman trying to make her life in a city that offered her few chances, caught in forces far beyond her control. The Camden Town Murder reminds us how true crime can bleed into art, how the private suffering of one can be transformed into public spectacle, and how mysteries, when left unsolved, take on a life of their own. And so, the legacy of Emily Dimmock lingers in London's history. Was she the victim of a jealous lover, a client gone mad, or simply in the wrong place with the wrong man? We may never know, but the scandal she left behind has kept her memory alive long after the gas lamps of Edwardian Camden went dark. Thank you for watching Crimes Through Time. If this story fascinated you, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more journeys into history's darkest mysteries. And tell us in the comments, do you think Robert Wood was truly innocent, or did a clever lawyer save a guilty man? We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, stay curious, stay safe.